Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm sorry my office is a mess, but real life, right? So, why do web designers cost so much money? It's a question I get asked a lot like, oh my God, why are your rates so high? Um, so, I have, give you an idea, I have been designing websites since 1998, like back when they first came out, when tables were written in a long way, when HTML was HTML, not HTML5 or CSS3 or that kind of thing. Like back when we used floppy disks, I mean, long time ago, and zip drives and things like that. So a while. So I have a lot of experience. I've been doing this for a very long time. And it kind of does boil down to experience, but to give you an idea, my going rate as of right this minute, um, August 8th, 2018 is $129 an hour. And you might be going, wow, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? It's the reason it's so high. And I do segment my costs to 15-minute intervals. So like if someone sends me some text updates, I can usually get them done in 15 minutes. And so it only costs $35 a round. Um, but the reason that I do it that way, the reason I have it so high is I can do things so fast because I've been doing them for so long. So the way to make my hourly rate valuable to me is to have it that high. And frankly, it's what I'm worth. I'm probably worth more than that. But that is what I have it right now, especially as I start to segment the new Fredericksburg market. I just want to establish my baseline and then go from there. Now, what why do web designers and agencies, why do they cost so much money? And the reason that they cost so much money does boil down to experience, but it's also the sheer amount of skills that you really need to be a proficient web designer or even a web developer. That web developer is a whole other set of skills. There's things like called web editors. That's kind of it kind of goes web editors, web designers, web developers, and then there's like the unicorns that like know everything, right? So what I wanted to go over was kind of what skills are involved and why, kind of explain why the rates are so high. A lot of people go to school for it. I did not go to school actually for my skill set. I just learned it and then just ran with it, and I've been doing it for so long. Um, I do have a degree, but it is in social sciences, which is the study of people, which is plays right into what I know how to do. So the skills, there's a huge plethora of skills, just everything from technical to actual design. And there's just a lot involved. And what we're looking at is things like knowing how to do wireframing, knowing the right questions to ask your customer. If you're doing it yourself, you're also the salesperson, right? So you need to know what questions need to be answered in order for your designer or your developer or anything else like that to do. And if you're doing it yourself, you need to have the skills. You need to know how to be the salesperson for that skill, for that project. um, User experience, also abbreviated UX. It's knowing what the customers need to receive from that site. So it's not what does the customer want, it's what's going to be best for that customer. So you need to know how to ask those questions and what cues need to be on the site that's going to make it easier for that customer to get to where they need to go. Do they need to get to a call to action? Do they just need to get to a certain piece of information? You're the only one that can kind of help drive that. So that falls on you to know user experience, right? And it's a whole industry that does nothing but evaluate websites and make them user experience accessible. That's not even 508, which is like the government for disabilities and accessing. It's like the government's statute for figuring out how to make sites accessible to screen readers and things like that. That doesn't even include that. That's a whole other skill. Next is search engine optimization and search engine marketing, two different things. Um, it's very rare that everybody knows everything, but when you're designing a site, you need to know basics for search engine optimization. You need to know, well, I can't design the site this way because that's going to block out the way that Google does rankings. And if I put a bunch of images on it, it may look really pretty, but it's going to be terrible and Google's never going to pick it up. So you need to know how to balance that amount of text with the right amount of images. So that's a skill. And then you have just the software you need to know. You need to know if you're a professional, you can get around this, but there are like anything, you can get around it, but there's a tool that does it better. And in our situation, it's Adobe and Adobe Photoshop, Illustrator, in some cases, even InDesign. And that's the industry standard for designing a site. And you can set up all your layouts and things like that. But there's online ones that you can do. I think there's a new one. I'm going to get the name wrong, but I think it's called Webflowy. That lets you do it's an online tool that lets you lay out your sites, right? Then there's Balsamic, which is a wireframing tool. There's Envision, which lets you show the site that you've designed to the, if you've done a bunch of pictures, you can put that in the pictures into Envision, and your customer can actually scroll through them like they're on a mobile phone, or they can scroll through them like they're on the computer. It's an online interaction, right? Um, that's those are just the getting the user to use them, or the customer to use them skills. Then you have development languages. You need to know HTML, and now we're up to version 5, CSS, now up to version 3, JavaScript, jQuery, and that doesn't even count the development skills, which are things like, gosh, ASP, but who uses that anymore? PHP, more in-depth JavaScript and jQuery. Like it's a thing. And then there's framing languages too, like Bootstrap and Foundation. Those are all different kinds of languages and all different kind of frameworks that can be used to build sites. And then you have the content management systems like WordPress and Drupal. There's so many pieces to this puzzle, and a good designer or developer will know all these. So it is a degree in and of itself. So it is that when you hire somebody, a web designer, you're kind of hiring someone with a, not kind of, you are hiring somebody with a whole bunch of just random skills that are all come together to make your site successful. And you need all these random skills because you don't know which way, which method, which road that design or that website, that marketing campaign is going to go. Well, are you going to use this skill with this campaign? Or are you going to use this skill? It all kind of comes together. And that's why designers and developers cost so much. Designers, for some reason, cost less than developers. I'm kind of on the fence, but that's a whole other thing about why one's worth more than the other, because developers can't work well without a good design, and designers can't work well without good back end. So I kind of think they should be paid the same, but that's the way the industry has kind of taken it. You know, designers are still kind of considered graphic designers and they cost less, but that's a whole other can of worms. You also need project management skills, right? You need to be able to, even if you work within a company, you still need to be able to manage the turnaround times and your clients' launch times, and just internal things that are going on within the company. You need to be able to manage all those things, those project management skills, from a minimal viable product all the way to the completed launch. And then after that, you know, following up in a month or two to making sure that your SEO is running properly, that the campaign is still running correctly. Those take project management skills. You also need to be able to coordinate with contractors, and being able to work with your coworkers, and being able to work within sprints. Another thing, being able to do those things, it's all important, and it all takes skills. Now, I'm kind of scrolling down my list here. That's why I keep looking down, but I wanted you to know, like, where you could go to kind of get around it if you just can't afford a quality designer or developer to work on your site, or a marketing campaigner to work on your site. You can go to places like upwork.com or Fiverr, which is spelled FIVRR.com. Be forewarned, you will pay for what you get what you pay for. It's good in a pinch, but either you will want to change it sooner than later, or you're not going to get a quality product in return. So I kind of only want to steer people to go to Upwork if you just need somebody, but you're probably going to end up spending the same amount of money for a quality person as you would if you just sought them out. So sought out somebody local that you could kind of vet and make sure that they are what you need them to be. So that is why web designers and developers cost so much money. And it's why it costs so much to do a website, because in order to do a quality work that is going to get you results, that's going to get you where you want to be, it takes a lot of time. You know, a quality website doesn't happen in an instant. It happens over a couple months, you know, just to get the initial thing up. Yes, you can go to Wix.com, or I think it's Squarespace.com, and get a site designed and up right away, but you're probably going to run into mobile responsiveness issues. You're probably going to run into wanting to do something and not being able to accomplish it because that service doesn't provide it. Or you're going to try to integrate an outside service, like maybe if you have Constant Contact or MailChimp, like maybe it doesn't integrate the way you want it to, and you need some kind of more of a custom set up. You're not going to know until you try. So if your budget just does not qualify for it, do start out with those free website sites, right? Knowing that when you do come to a custom site need, it's going to cost you either an hourly rate or it's going to cost you to do a package rate. Like a lot of website companies, myself included, do website packages in order to kind of contain the cost for the customer. They have a flat rate, a package rate for a certain number of pages or a certain number of setups or a certain number of revisions. And that is helpful for when you have a tight budget to staying within that budget. But then you have to know that the person's going to call you out on scope creep. And scope creep is when things get added to it. So there's only a certain number of hours that that designer has to work within. So it's going to come back and be like, well, we can't do that because that exceeds the contract. So knowing that up front and knowing that you're okay with that can contain, if you can get a quality designer or developer at a rate that you can afford. So you just have to make sure that the contract is like crystal clear, so everybody knows what everybody's getting into. So that is why web designers cost so much money. If you have questions or maybe something more specific, like, can I get this design project within this certain rate? I'm happy to help you out. Oh, and one more thing, how much the designer or developer costs is area dependent. If you go to New York or you go to DC, it's gonna cost more than if you go to somebody that's working from their home is rural, right? And it also has to do with skill set and how long they've been doing it, their experience, and just kind of what you want to do. If you're trying to go for something ultra specific, it's going to take more time. So that's just common sense stuff. But that's where we're at. If you've got questions, I invite you to ask them below. I am very good about doing responses on YouTube. And also, please like and subscribe, and we will continue this discussion. And if you've got more questions and they all seem about the same, I will do more videos about them. So that's it. I'll talk to you later. Bye.